money off my friends getting into something that's not of value to them. That's what they're saying. But if Virginia Carter helped me make $100,000 and the company says, you help Bill make 100,000, we'll pay you 50, are you going to turn it down? But most people, again, it's all back to a mindset and the worthy thing. And the uneducation on money is so invasive that we have to spend the rest of our lives overcoming, 100% of us. Not maliciously, but the mindsets of, not just in money, in everything. I know I've got 3 great grandchildren. Well, I got 9 of them, but right now 6 for the next week or so are living in our house. 3 of them, a 6-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 18-month-old. I can brainwash them to anything I want to brainwash them to. And if it's bad, they're going to be brainwashed bad. And if it's good, and years ago, I read the subconscious cannot take a joke. The subconscious accepts everything that goes into it as truth. And so the indoctrination starts at an early age regarding money. And, no one is void of it. No one says at age 3, well, I don't think that's a correct statement, Granddad. I choose to think like now, whatever Granddad says, that's the way it's going to be. And the accumulation of bad money thoughts is huge amongst all the people on this call. We all have stories. The brainwashing, the indoctrination. And so when we come to our system, and that's why I don't even like to talk, Ray, about Primerica. Primerica is inconsequential. It's a system of creating income and wealth. That's what Primerica definition is, and they call it Primerica. Like United States, it's a free enterprise system we call the United States. It's interesting. I read yesterday where Elon Musk says that Austin, Texas is going to set records of growth unparalleled in the United States. And so much of it is the mindset of people here. And so you go to where the mindset is, and you eventually acquire that mindset, good or bad. So I love these discussions with Omar because it continues to keep us on high alert regarding the necessity and the need to make and accumulate money. And I can tell in a matter of minutes a person's money mindset. All you have to do is look at the leaders bolted. I can tell you their money mindset. So, James, you're on, right, James? Can you hear me? Ray, think about how they say about Abraham Lincoln. If I had 8 hours to cut down trees, I'd spend the first 4 or 5 hours honing my axe. And think about how hard we work to hone our mindset regarding making and accumulating money. Think about that, Ray. When you were growing up, did you spend any time honing your mindset about making money?
Not honing it. I was told to go out and make money, cutting grass, working for my father, or even snow, whatever it is. Snow didn't mean play in the snow, it meant go shovel some snow, make some money. So,
Again, hey, Omar. Thank you, Ray. Hey, Omar. I'll let
Hey, Bill.
Omar just visit with some of the folks for a minute or two while I take a break for a second to get myself in order. All right.
Sure. How's everybody doing today? Anybody want to ask any questions? Because you're on early, you get to ask some questions here.
Yeah, good morning,
If you do,
Omar.
just let me know. Don't be nervous.
Yeah, good morning, Omar. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm
Hey,
great.
quick, as you're developing yourself throughout, how did you constantly on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis keep yourself focused on the aspects of making money in the business?
When you want anything, you don't have to try to get locked in on it every day. You just are. And so I genuinely wanted to be rich. I mean, anybody that knew me knew that. I was very vocal about it. People would even criticize me. Oh, Omar, you're all about money. That's all you talk about. Well, what do you talk about? Poverty stuff, your credit card debt, your problems, your low income. Whatever you talk about is what you'll get more of. So when I was talking about it, it was not to brag to anybody. It was just to constantly remind me about it. So I would ask you and everyone else on the call, how often do you talk about making money, net worth, putting away cash? I mean, if that's not innately in you, then you need to create that, and you need to make a conscious effort to talk about it all the time. A lot of people, they don't want to talk about it because they're worried about what it will look like. Oh, he'll just look like one of those greedy guys that all he wants. Man, you got to give up worrying about what everybody else is looking at you like, and worry about you. So, that's what I did. I just always talked about it. Even now, I still talk about it. Everybody knows my net worth. Everybody knows what I make a year because I'm always talking about it.
And you're always talking about it because you're always thinking about it.
Right.
And you get what you think about.
That's exactly what I just told them, Bill. You and I are like two peas in a pod.
But the thing that we're going to be talking about today is creating that constant thought process. Thinking about it, how do we nurture it? How do we foster it? How do we feed it? How do we prime the pump? How do we stoke that fire? And that's why you're the perfect person, Omar. There's to me, where do you go? I know Hector is going to be on next time, but he's really not available all the time, and it's hard to get people talking about this subject. Why do you think that is, Omar?
I think they don't believe that they will have it. So they don't talk about it because they don't really believe it. For whatever strange reason, I believed at a young age. 8, 9, 10 years old, I would dream all the time. I was always daydreaming. I'd end up in trouble in school sometimes because I just wasn't listening in school because what I was learning in school was so boring to me. And I was dreaming about great things that I would do in life, whether I played baseball, tennis, football, that I would lead the team, to the winning touchdown or the winning run. And then as I got older, that changed from athletics to business to making money to getting wealthy. And I never worried about anyone else's view. People would criticize me. Oh, that Omar guy, all he talks about is money and money and money. Well, what do you talk about? Poverty and poverty and poverty. So if I have a choice, I'm going to talk about wealth versus poverty any day of the week. As a matter of fact, my wife, when I just when I just met her, she couldn't stand that I was talking about how much money I was going to make and this and that. And she thought, I was an arrogant, pompous jerk. And I said, well, what do you want? Do you want a loser that's got no dreams and goals? And that's what they're talking about? This, what I'm talking about is where I'm going, where I'm heading. And then after a while, she got it, but initially she couldn't stand it either, but it is what it is.
Now, I think you can measure yourself by what people say negatively, like, you're getting too skinny.
Yeah.
You're too religious. You want to hear those things. You love it too much. It's all you talk about it. And you, like the old thing that all you ever talk about is money. Really? Yes. Well, good. Thank you. I wasn't sure I was talking about money enough that anyone would notice. You see, we tend to back off when anybody criticizes us, but you got to understand where it's all coming from. And that's the whole purpose as we get started, Omar, creating a money mindset. And let me just kind of open it up with, I got this from Steve Seibold from Secrets of the Self-Made Millionaire. Most people that dissect their own thinking arrive at the realization that the only time they really think about money is when they are worried about it. So we tend to think it's okay to think about money only when you worry about it, only when the pressure comes in and the stress comes in and there's bills due. And as we have some fun with this, there's a woman named Sophie Tucker. She's from old time, 20s and 30s. She was a very famous actress. She said this: a girl needs what a girl needs. Between birth and age 18, she needs good parents. 18 to 35, she needs good looks. 35 to 55, she needs a good personality. Over 55, she needs cash. So we tend to poo-poo this stuff and put it way on the back burner. And let me just start it out. There's some funny things we'll start with. Guy said, I'm almost a millionaire. All I have all the zeros. I just need the one. Where does all my money go? It's like hocus pocus on brocus. If you think nobody cares whether you're alive, try missing a couple of payments. And I know there's one institution that wants me to make all the money I can make, and that's the federal government. They cannot get enough money. All they think about is money. The whole government is about how much money can we get coming in. And but when we want to make money, that's bad. So I want to start out by asking some thought questions today about where does the thought process about money occur? You talk about that with your uncle. What was his name? Gus?
Mo.
Mo.
Uncle Mo.
And so how you have two choices. I'm going to make money. I'm going to make lots of money, or I don't need to make a lot of money to be happy. How did you move from that? I don't need to make a lot of money to be happy. You hear it all the time. There's more to life than money. All these rope mindsets that have been installed in us with cliches that are rooted deep in our subconscious that keep us from succeeding. Because even if we get things going, somehow we're going to alter it and slow it down because the money says, oh, no, he doesn't want to make people. The mind that says he doesn't want to make a lot of money. So what was the greatest changes you had to make, Omar, over the course of your life, not just Primerica?
All right, now this might freak you out, okay? But I never had that. The minute that I heard you don't need money to be happy, I thought, well, ain't that the stupidest thing I ever heard? I mean, I was a kid with no money. So when I heard that, I said, you don't need money to be happy. I thought, well, if we had money, we'd be living in a nicer neighborhood. I'd be driving a nicer bicycle, to school. I'd be in a nicer school. We'd be traveling to nicer places. We'd have a greater Christmas. I mean, as a kid, when I heard that, I totally disregarded that as ignorance. I thought those people, they don't have any money, so they don't know. But I had Uncle Mo. And so I would watch Uncle Mo's life, and we would visit his house. And it was a beautiful house in a beautiful neighborhood. And he drove a luxury car. And when we went out to eat with Uncle Mo, it was to a nice place, not McDonald's or Burger King like we used to do. So I really never had that in me. I rejected it immediately as a child. I think everybody, if you're grown up, you just need to reject that, because that is pure stupidity. It's pure stupidity. Anybody that ever told you that never had anything. So I just never had to work out of it, Bill, because I never got in it, I guess.
Strangely, mine came from television.
What?
People say from television.
Oh, television. Okay.
When I was a kid, it's a long story. We lived in a cold water flat. You've heard me talk about that.
Yep.
And television, when I saw television, I didn't know it wasn't real, and that these people didn't live in these mansions and nice homes. And if you take a look at the real old movies, all the great things were for rich people, and their flowing gowns and a big building. And I remember when I finally got a driver's license, I loved driving into the big, beautiful, rich neighborhoods. I thought I wanted so bad, I didn't have the guts to do it, to knock on their door and say, how did you get this? What do you do for a living? How can I get it? But I finally came to the conclusion, well, I was told they're doctors and lawyers and dentists and all the really smart, rich. That's how you get smart. You got to be rich. You got to be smart, go to these fancy universities, have a high IQ, and I was struggling in school. So I immediately dismissed that as, well, I'm not one of those people. So you've got to foster it. Again, it's amazing when I go down to South Florida, talk about rich people. There's a lot of rich people in South Florida because they made all their money up north and they bought all these beautiful homes in Miami in the wintertime, right?
Yeah.
So how do you foster it? Just because you have it doesn't mean it doesn't have to be fed. What do you recommend the folks do on this call to get the Omar money mindset?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing that was interesting that you just brought up, that you would visit all these rich neighborhoods and you would want to walk up and knock on the door, right? Well, I live in one of those rich neighborhoods, and I was out walking the neighborhood the other day with my wife. We now go on nightly walks every day around the neighborhood. So she's got me out exercising. And there was this one house with beautiful landscaping. And so we just purchased a brand new home and we're redoing the landscaping. And we ripped it all out. And this guy's landscaping is the nicest in the neighborhood. So I said, let's just walk up, knock on the door and ask him. So I walked up, knocked on his door. I said, hey, I'm your neighbor. I live right up the block there. I'm Omar. What's your name? Ryan's his name. I said, your landscaping is beautiful. We just wanted to know who your landscaper was because we're going to re-landscape our new house. Oh, where's your new house? It's on this street. Oh, that's the nicest street in the neighborhood. I said, well, this street and that street's the nicest street in the neighborhood. So anyways, he invites us in the house, right? See, we think rich people are evil and mean, right? Here is, I don't know this guy from anything. I went up, I knocked on his door. I asked him, what a beautiful landscaping you have. Who do you use? Come in the house. Let me let you look at the backyard too. So he walks us around the backyard. He walks us around the front yard. And I asked him, how much, if you don't mind, how much was the landscaping job? $120,000, right? For trees, okay? But I asked him, the next question was, what do you do? He said, I created a company, Buddha Beer. It's called Funky Buddha Beer. You could look it up. And he unloaded the company to Corona beer for $80 million. And he still gets like X number of millions of dollars a year for the next 10 years on top of that. So I was just like, how many other people are like that? I mean, I know almost everybody, but I don't know everybody in the neighborhood. So there was another house, they screened in their whole backyard, not their pool, but they screened in their whole backyard. So when I play golf, I always noticed it and I thought that'd be a great idea. So what I do, I went up, knocked on his door. He answered his door. I said, "Hey, I'm your neighbor up the street. I was just wondering, your screened in patio is like a screened in yard, and we'd like to do that. And I was just wondering, would you let us look at it?" "Sure, come on inside." So another rich guy that was very, very nice let us in, and we started talking for about half an hour, and I'm asking questions. "So, how did you do this?" He said, "Well, there's a restaurant called 2J's. Have you ever heard of 2J's? Well, in Florida, they're all over the place. I don't know if they're in Texas, probably
No.
not. But 2J's, he created the restaurant, owned it, and then unloaded it for millions and millions of dollars." And I'm thinking, and I asked him, "How much is a screened in patio?" He was like, 200 grand, $200,000 for a screen, not for a house, for a screen. Okay. So now I'm going to screen in my backyard because I want to do that. But my point is, I'm always expanding. I'm always looking. There was another rich guy, Bill Orender, and I was in Texas and I was making $250,000 a year. I was a nobody in Primerica. Nobody knew me yet. $250,000. And I called the rich guy, thinking the rich guy will never call me back. He's a rich guy. What'd he do? Called me back in 10 minutes. And I let him know, "I'm in Dallas. I was just wondering if it's okay if I dropped in your house. I'd love to meet you." "Sure, come on over." Man, I was there for like 2 hours with Bill. We started a great relationship on that day. So my point is, quit being so chicken and grow a pair and go talk to people that look like they're making it, and start off with a nice talk and nice questions and flatter them. I mean, I flattered the landscaping guy. I flattered the screened in pool guy. It was real. I really did look at that and was like, wow, it was beautiful. But most people, even most people in our neighborhood, would not go walk up to a house that they didn't know and knock on the door and ask the questions that I did. So now I have two new buddies of
New
mine.
friend.
They're my
Well,
buddies
the-
now. They want to play golf with me because you know what? They asked me in turn, "Well, what do you do?" And I told them, "Well, I have a business." And we started to talk. And so once they knew, they said, "Well, why don't we play golf one day?" I said, "That'd be great." We exchanged numbers. We've already texted each other a couple of times in the last week. They're new friends. So what I do is I'm always looking to expand. I'm always looking to expand. I have a new decorator that's decorating the new house. And the lady decorated Lenny Kravitz's house. I don't know if you know who Lenny Kravitz is, but he's a rock star, very well known globally, huge. And so I asked her, I said, "Do you think you could get me into Lenny Kravitz's house and look at your job there?" She said, "Oh, sure. Lenny and I are buddies." And I think, "Do you think if Lenny's there, you could introduce me?" "Oh, sure. He's a really nice guy." So I'm going to meet Lenny Kravitz. Why? Because I asked, right? You got to ask questions and other stuff. Like I just bought a new house. And what am I doing last night? I'm on realtor.com, right? My kids are like, "Dad, are you crazy? We just bought a brand new house and you're looking at condos on the ocean." I said, "Well, I'm just looking for what's next. I'm always looking for what's next. I got a new car, beautiful new car. I'm still looking at cars online. Why? Because what's next? What's the next Rolex? What's the next trip? What am I going to do next? Right? Because that keeps me driven to work. If there was no next plan for me, I would not work. I would view it like I've made it. I have enough money where I don't have to work ever again. I got a beautiful home, beautiful car. If there's nothing next, why would I go to work? I would tell you that most people have not a next. They're not constantly looking, opening their eyes, stretching their vision, meeting new people. They know the exact broke people that they hang out with constantly who are just hurting them in more ways than they even know. And I'm ranting a little bit. I'm sorry, but it gets me jacked up because I know there's at least one person on this Zoom, at least one, hopefully more than one, but at least one person that this week will say, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and I'm going to go meet people, you know? And so anyways, that's what I do to keep it going, keep it flowing.
Well, Rabbi Lapin, as you know, a fan of his, said, if you were a kid and you broke your leg, would you limp on that leg for the rest of your life, or would you get it fixed? Well, I get it fixed. See, just because you have thought processes that are keeping you broke doesn't mean that can't be fixed. And another thing that brought out in a little thing, the question is, what if Babe Ruth, when he came up to the major, said, just bunt. We don't need you hitting home runs. We just need you to bunt. And that's all they ever asked him to do. And that's what happens in our lives. No one's ever asked us to hit home runs. They just said, just bunt. You can have a nice little bunt life, living on a little nice little bunt house, make a little bunt income. And what you're doing is, if you can hit home runs, you're supposed to hit home runs. And again, it's interesting how I got a quote from you that you didn't really reach out to millionaires, you just hung out with them. You found a way to hang out with millionaires instead of broke people. The old adage that if you're still hanging around the people that you hung around with 5 years ago, nothing's going to change. You got a whole new crop of people like you. You're hanging around with different people now than you did 5 years ago.
Right.
So talk about that and what you read, some of the things that honed your money consciousness to make more money and have and accumulate.
Well, I'll tell you, years ago in Primerica, I don't know if you remember probably, they would give you these jackets, like a light blue jacket if you qualified, and a navy blue jacket, and then a red jacket, and then a gold jacket, and then a black jacket, or the black, then the gold, one like that. And so you worked your way up the ranks, right? So when you're at the Atlanta trip every other year, they would have all the jackets with each other. And I thought, I got to get a jacket so I could hang out with those guys, because if you didn't have the jacket, they didn't let you near them. So I worked really, really hard. I got the light blue jacket. I looked like a Smurf, okay? And so I was with the light blue group. And they were, great guys, but they were more like me, 100,000, 100.5. I said, I got to move up to the navy jacket. I got to move up to the gold jacket. And I would work up. And then when I got to your jacket, I was like, if I could get to Orender's jacket, it's an alphabetical order. So I would have Keith Otto and Orender and Omar in the middle, or Orpessa in the middle. And so I qualified for it. This was all predestined plan. It was not accident, okay? Everybody thinks, oh, you just luck out and you get rich. No, you got to will it. Think about it all the time, how to get, to the next level. And I remember that's where I kind of got to know Bill, where I knew him enough where I could call him when I was in Dallas, And Keith Otto's the exact way. Me and Keith are buds. We hang out, play golf, do stuff. He lives an hour and a half drive. I've driven over there to look at his new house. And I mean, we do stuff, together. But a lot of that was, if I didn't change, if I didn't grow, I would have never known those guys, right? So everyone said, oh, you're just lucky. No, I just worked my tail off because I knew that I could get to a place where I could meet new people that could really change the outlook of life for me, you know? And then one last thing, I remember like the last jacket, the highest level jacket was they would give you Rolex watches, presidential Rolex watches. Like Bill's probably wearing his right now. He's looking at his wrist. And I wanted to get that. And I was working so hard to get that. And then Joe Plumeri left Primerica. John Addison replaced him. We had a January meeting and I was all jacked up because this was the year I was going to get my Rolex, you know, and John says, we're doing away with jackets and Rolexes. We're giving away T-shirts. I was like, oh my God. But you know what? All the hard work that I did, I made enough money where I got my own Rolex, right? So it's just, you've got to get in position. Everybody in Primerica has a chance, you know, to meet rich people. How do you do it? Win a trip. Win a damn trip. We got 2 trips a year. I know last year there were no trips, but normally there's 2 trips a year and then the investment trip as well. So that's another trip you could win. And then $250,000 a year earners and up, that's another trip you could win. So $250,000 a year is only doing 20 recruits, 20 grand in premium as an RVP, and you'll make $250,000. So if I was anybody on this call, I'd be super locked in on that, getting to $250,000, because at that point you're winning all the trips. You're winning that $250,000 trip. Now you're in the in crowd of Primerica. You are amongst the elite and you get to rub elbows and grow relationships and talk and learn from these people. But most people will never do it because they think, I can't do that. And you know what? If that's what you think, you're 100% correct.
You know, Andy Young, we had him on a Zoom the other day, and understand people that are thinking making millions don't want to associate with people thinking thousands.
Right.
And they just don't want to associate with them because, you know, like Andy said, please, when you come up to me, don't tell me about your new recruit who's going to get started. Like I'll call somebody, tell me your activity. Well, I got a good appointment 2 weeks from now. It's don't, if you're going to talk to Omar, don't say, Omar, what do you say when you talk to, how do you get a new recruit? That is so basic. That just says you're not asking him about the millions. You're asking him about the hundreds, maybe not even the thousands. But the question came up on chat. What are some of the things that Omar had to change and improve upon to get to new levels of thinking to make $250,000? What is the thing that, like they said, the thinking that got you where you are cannot be the thinking that will take you where you want to go?
I would write out monthly budgets. So I would create these imaginary budgets. Like when I make 10 grand a month. Now, nowadays I look at that and I think that's so small, it's pathetic. But when you're earning $1,000 a month, 10 grand a month is a lot of money. So I would write monthly budgets. If I made 10 grand, where would that money go? How would I live? What would I drive? What would I invest? Da, 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 da. Then as I got closer to that, I would make a 20 grand budget. What would I do if I made $20,000 a month? What would I make? What would it look like when I was making $500,000? What would it look like when I was making 100 grand? Like right now, I write it out $250,000 a month. What is it going to look like when I'm making $250,000 a month? What is my budget going to look like? How much money am I going to give away every month? Where will I live? What will I drive? I might get a Rolls Royce and a Lamborghini then, because at $250,000 a month, if you got $80 million put away, what the hell are you going to do, right? Just spend it, right? So my point is, I would always make these real budgets, and they were detailed, because I learned if it's detailed, you really got to use your brain. So I would work out, okay, $500,000 house with 100 grand down. How much would the mortgage cost me? And I'd write out mortgage, property tax, homeowners insurance, da, 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 so that it was real. It wasn't a Mickey Mouse budget. It was a legitimate budget, as if I was earning that income per month. And that's the life that I would live. So it made you do research. What do you mean research? Well, how do I know what the property taxes are on $1 million house when I don't have one? Well, you look on the Broward County website or your county website, and you can look up anybody's address. It's the craziest thing. You can look up anybody's address. I used to look up Greg, our upline's address, and I knew how much his property tax cost him, how all that stuff is there. And so I would create these budgets, and then I drive my wife crazy looking at them with her. Babe, listen, when we make $20,000 a month, this is what we're going to do. When we make 50 grand a month, this is what we're going to do. When we make 100 grand a month, this is what we're going to do. And then as we would achieve a level, we used to do this probably for 8 years early on. Every month we would meet, her and I would have a meeting. We would go over what we made that month. We would go over our budget. We would go over how much we invested. And as a man, let me tell you, as a man, your ego's on the line when you call that meeting every month, because you want your wife looking at you like, I'm proud of you, honey. When I told her, here's 20 grand that's left over this month, mail that off to our investment accounts, 80 grand that's left over this month, right? I couldn't tell her there's no money left over this month, honey, because I would be like, I'm a loser, right? So it was a way to hold me accountable, and it was a way to get my wife involved in the game with me of accumulating wealth, whereas most wives would have been nagging me when I was earning 800 grand a year. We need a house. We need a big house. We need this. She never did that. We rented an apartment until we had $2 million cash and we're earning 800 grand a year. Nobody does that. Very small number of people do that, right? But one of the reasons we were able to do that is that I got her involved in it. Now, after all these years and our kids are old enough now I'm getting her involved in another way. Now we're reviewing it because I tell her, what if I drop dead? You got to know where the money is. You got to know what to do, right? Shane, you ain't going to drop that. I said, I know I ain't going to drop that, but you never know. I could be driving to the office and an idiot run a red light, pile into me. Who knows? You got to know. So now she's getting more involved again after about 11, 12 years of raising kids into that. And then what that's getting her to do is she's like, we need to license more reps in our base shop, because if we want to grow our income, we need to grow our base shop. So now my wife's getting more involved in that. My wife's working on her investment license right now. After all these years, Bill, she's never gotten her license. And I said, hey, if I drop dead, you know how much you're going to lose not having that license? So now my wife's working on license. So I think those budgets that I created made me really analyze what kind of life I would have, where I wrote the numbers down and it was crystal clear, and I reviewed it with my wife on a constant basis. And we had that once a month meeting. And I don't know who else does that stuff, Bill, because I never met anybody that or knew of anyone that did that, where they meet with, usually when I grew up, my dad would write out all the bills once a month. He'd be in the grumpiest mood that day. You knew to avoid dad, right? Because just the littlest thing would just piss him off that day. And it usually ended in an argument that night. Okay. That was the way it was growing up. With us, it's different. I still write out the bills. Bobby and Red told me, write out your own bills. You don't want nobody ripping you off. And there's a lot of examples in Primerica, people that have hired other people to pay their bills that have swindled millions of dollars out of their accounts without them knowing. So I still once a month write out all my bills. I still get joy looking at my budget, crossing off the bills, and then that check at the end of the month, writing it off to our investment accounts. That still jacks me up today. I'm crazy.
Well, you're not. And the poverty mindset and consciousness that most people on this call have that have not broken and fixed yet says, here's how much I make. Now, here's my expenses. Where can I cut my expenses? Where can I cut? And that's why people on a Saturday would rather go out to Lowe's or Home Depot, spend all day fixing their own plumbing, to save $100. And the millionaire mindset says, I can spend all day Saturday making $1,000 or $2,000. So that's the difference, is that most people try to fit their life into their income. And what you're doing is you're saying what income is possible and look at the life I could have with that income. That's what you're doing with that budget every month that you were talking about. One of the things that I try to avoid talking about is Primerica, because I don't think it's Primerica that we should be admiring, because whatever Primerica is, but it's a system of making money and accumulating wealth. So talk about how you became a multimillionaire, that mindset, when you attach recruiting, like you said, your wife said, we need more codes. Recruiting and wealth. Most people get a recruit and they do nothing with them. You multiply that recruit. You do something great with that. Talk about that and how you put the two together.
Well, I'll tell you, one of the reasons I think was early on, that I stuttered every word. So, could you imagine working Primerica, Bill, when you are not able to talk? I mean, it was really, really challenging. So when I got a recruit, I thought, I've got to get as much out of this recruit as possible, because who knows when I'll get the next one, right? Because I was stuttering so bad. And so I was very, very driven to, if I recruited you, I was getting into everybody you knew, because I knew that was easier to do than a person that stutters to prospect, cold, right? So I would get into it. And so I realized at a very early age in Primerica, the more I did that, the more money I made. And the more I did, and the good months, when you look at your trend track and you look at the incomes, and this was a good month and this was a horrible month, I would just look over at the recruiting, and the recruiting always was in line with the good months. Whenever there was a good income month, I had a good recruiting month, right? So, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm not an idiot either, right? I very quickly realized, well, the more recruits that I get, because I'm going to do the work with them. I'm not just recruiting them and cramming them in the life school and, letting them know good luck. I would recruit them. I would visit their warm markets. I would get to know and grow relationships with their warm markets. So I would meet their brother and their cousin and their parents and this and that, and they all wound up clients. And the better that I treated the clients, they wanted to work with us too. And then the recruit that led me there, they got motivated because their brother's now working with them. And I'm looking at it like, wait a minute, this is leading me to more recruiting, which eventually will lead me to more cash. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, it's not only recruiting them. What if I license them and train them to do what I'm doing? So now it's not just me doing it. Now I have another person doing it. And then the numbers, I'm very analytical like that. So then I would start with a yellow legal pad, start writing out the numbers. Well, what if I had 20 licensed reps that just did one recruit a month? And with that one recruit a month, they did a couple F&As and closed a couple life sales and some rollovers. And I would start working out the numbers with my calculator. One thing I will tell everybody, you've got to learn comp. You've got to understand how we get paid on every product, how the residuals work, how the 12-1s work, how everything works, all the bonuses, and not at the district level, not at the division level. You learn it when you're a district, but you learn comp at the level of RVP. That's what I did. I was like, wait a minute, if I'm an RVP and I'm doing this exact grant and premium, I make way more money. So why would I hang out at a district? I would think in my mind, only losers would do that, because why would you want to make half the money that you can make on the exact transaction? So that helped me. And then as I looked at promotion guidelines, I noticed recruiting is what got me up the ladder in the promotion guidelines. And so I just linked it all together. Primerica is like a jigsaw puzzle is really what it is. And most people, they don't take the time to look at the box picture on the box and then put the jigsaw puzzle together, right? Most people look at the puzzle pieces and they get overwhelmed and they go, oh, I can't do that. And they just throw it away. But the smart people will look at the puzzle picture, the Primerica puzzle picture, and be like, aha. So the recruiting leads to premium, leads to cash flow. If we got those recruits licensed and train them to do what you could do, the numbers are going to multiply, and you put it all together. And I was able to do that early on, and even though I explained this to my people, oh my God, I got RVPs and regional leaders and division leaders, I explained this stuff till I'm blue in the face. A couple of them get it. Most of them don't. Willie Naranjo right now is in what do you call it? Maldives. He's in the Maldives Islands right now. Willie Naranjo on vacation. That is everybody's dream vacation. That's just one of Willie's monthly trips that he does, right? And he texts me right now with a screen picture of he's watching this right now in the Maldives. Why? Because Willie's got that mentality. I'm on vacation. I'm going to enjoy my vacation, but I got an hour that I need to listen to this stuff so I could get it in my head, right? So, and then I got other RVPs that aren't Willie Naranjo, that aren't making $250,000 a month, that aren't in the Maldives, that are right here at home, and they're not even on the call. Isn't that something?
Well, that's brings us to double-digit recruiting. I can't tell you how many people have told me for years they were involved in 10 new recruits a month coming in. And I've told people that. You've told people that. Mario's told people that. Andy Young has told people that. And so when a person is not involved in 10 recruits a month themselves, when they've been told this over and over again, it says, I don't want to be wealthy. And that's nothing wrong with them, but we cannot spend the rest of our lives trying to get people to want to get wealthy. And I've stopped trying to say, well, how come people aren't? I'm not worried about that. Let's talk about the wealthy people and why the wealthy people are doing what they're doing. Like you, why are you doing what you're doing? What's your mentality? I got a quote here, if you comment on it. It says, some of you are breaking generational curses and don't even know it. That's why it seems so hard and why you need to maintain your focus. You broke a generational curse from generations, haven't you, for yourself and your family forever? Let me tell you one quick thing. I just finished reading a book called The Jewish Phenomenon. You and I have talked about it. And there's a joke in there. And the joke is this woman, a Jewish woman with her 2 young boys, is walking down the street. And the man says to her, how old are your children? She said, the doctor is 4 and the lawyer is 2. She is brainwashing these kids to be doctors and lawyers. She broke the curse. She knows that mentally you got to start at a young age. You've broken the curse for your family for hundreds of years to come. That's what's at stake, isn't it, Omar?
Yes, and if you know me like you do, I talk about legacy a lot, right? Legacy means a lot to me. I'm emotional about that. So I too, like the Jewish lady, have been brainwashing our kids their whole lives. We have on the weekends for their whole lifetime, we have morning talks. So one weekend morning, I have Brady, and one weekend morning, I have Olivia. And we have morning talks, and we talk about life and job versus owning a business, and why it's good to own a business, and why it's good to own a business that really helps people, because the more you could resolve people's problems and bring them joy, you will earn more income, which will bring you joy. And so our kids are, in middle school. If you ask Brady, what is your goals? What is your dreams? They have dream boards on their desk that they created. I never told them to do it. Not one time. Okay. I told them that I did it. And so they kind of got the lesson. They have dream boards. You ask Brady right now, what do you want to do? He says, Dad, I'm going to run Disney. I'm going to be the chief executive officer of Disney. I have a plan. I have a business plan. Do you want to look at it? Absolutely. He brings me over to his office. He has an office in our house, and he opens up his business plans. He's got demographic studies that he's done on where they're going to open the next 2 Disney parks. One is in Australia and one is in Dubai, right? And so he has all these reasons why. He's got rides, new ride sketches and draws and ideas. He's written letters to Walt Disney with his ideas. They've written Brady letters back. So, and he gets jacked up when they do. So what he's doing already, he doesn't know that I've already helped mold him to train his own brain for what he wants, right? So he knows clearly what he wants. He's already has it in place. He's talking about it to everybody. He's verbalizing it to everybody. So what he's doing is he's training his own brain, like, this will happen. Okay, this will happen. And then he always tells me, and when I get tired of that, Dad, because that's like an 80-hour-a-week grind when you're there, but you could really change the company. After I get tired of that, Dad, and I'm wealthy, I'm gonna come work with you, Dad, just to like hang out, right? So, and then Olivia's vision board is like, Olivia's got it on there. I'm going to be the youngest $1 million earner in Primerica history. I'm going to beat Mario Arizon. So I'm very close with the Arizons. Their kids and our kids, we travel together. We do Disney together. We're very, very close. So Olivia knows he's the youngest $1 million earner in Primerica. So we've talked about that. And Olivia said, well, you know what? If I start younger than him and I already know what you know, Dad, because you're already teaching me, because when Mario was new, he didn't know anything. She says, I could do it at a younger age than him. So if you look at her dream board, her vision board, it's youngest $1 million earner in Primerica history. I want them to do whatever they want to do. I just want to make sure that I've trained them, to use their brain the right way, that it'll work with them versus work against them. Whereas most parents limit their kids' beliefs. If their kid tells them, I'm going to run Disney, come on, there's only one chief executive officer. You got to graduate from Yale, Harvard, or Princeton. You can't do that. Well, you just crushed his dream. As a matter of fact, we looked up all the Disney chief executive officers and where they went to college. None of them went to an Ivy League school. All of them started working from the ground up like Glenn Williams did. And so when we went over that and I taught him that and he looked at that, he thought, well, then maybe I'll go to college in Orlando and I'll work in Disney in college. So I'm already getting the ground floor up experience. He's like 8th grade. Who thinks like that in the 8th grade, right? So legacy is very important, me changing their mentality, because that's what they're going to do with our grandkids. You can't raise your grandkids, right? Only your kids can raise your grandkids. So if you raise screwed up kids, you're destined, to have screwed up grandkids, okay? So you have to do a good job in teaching them and creating this legacy. And so legacy is huge to me. That's one reason I work still, is I want our great grandkids to know who I am, what I did, how I changed their life. I want them to have an oil painting of me and Danielle in every living room of all of our grandkids' home. And when they walk in, they look up every day, they go, what's up, Grandpa? Like that's just something that I dream about. I'm going to write it in the trust that the only way they get any money is I got an oil painting in their living room hung up and it's going to get checked randomly. I don't know. I'm just kidding. So,
like one of my guys, Clarence up in Detroit, said, everybody in Detroit knows who Henry Ford is.
mm-hmm.
But not everyone knows who their great grandparents are, but their great parents are great grandparents for the same age as Henry Ford. But Henry Ford, his heirs keep getting money.
Yeah.
And the current heirs don't get any money. And, Art said, we define success in Primerica by income. And you have to continually understand we're here to make money. Now, I'll even say I'm here to build a business. I am here to be wealthy. I wanted to make wealth. Primerica was my tool to use. And so our success comes from honing, like you were saying, you're doing to your children, but you had to do it to yourself, didn't you? You didn't have a dad in this. Your dad was saying, like my dad, there's more to life than money. You can't take it with you, blah, 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 right? And so it's a never ending effort, isn't it? But now you're on the other side where it's such a way of life. Talk about the difference when it became, it's effort, but now it's a way of life to think like this.
You know, I really believe God wants you to have everything. I mean, he's our dad. And so if your dad didn't raise you right, didn't give you all the right mentalities, God will give you everything as long as you're open to reading about it, listening, learning, changing, growing, all stuff that probably when I was in high school, I wasn't open to because I really wasn't around anybody special. I think the key is to get around people. And when you can't get around people, you read books. That's the way you get around people that you don't know. You could read their books and learn a little bit about them or listen to their audio tapes. I mean, I listened to Bill's audio tapes for years prior to ever knowing Bill, okay? I listened to Hector's Lamarck Overcoming Objections. I wore the tape out prior to even knowing them. And as I was listening and reading like Bill's book, The Corporate Dream, The Deception of the Corporate Dream, I used to say, I will not only know these men one day, but they will be my friends. And I've slept at Bill's house numerous times. One time, hilarious story, I was sleeping over there and I was walking up, to the room where I normally sleep. And he says, wait, you're not able to go up there. I'm like, well, that's my room. He goes, no, we just redid the wood floors, sleep in the guest wing. And I go, where's the guest wing? I've walked around your whole house. I've never seen it. He says, walk me. So he walks me around this way, this long walkway, takes me all this. I go, Bill, I didn't even know this existed. I mean, your house is that big. You had a whole wing. I didn't even know existed, right? Then he says, now the tub here is just there for looks. My wife really loved that tub. So we got to, but I don't want you using it because you could break your neck slipping in and out of it. So you're going to use mine. So the next morning, I'm in the shower. I'm in Bill Orender's shower, right? Writing my numbers on your glass windows, right? Dreaming like that. And I'm thinking, this is where Bill Orender writes his numbers every day that he learned off of me, right? So my point is, if you're not close enough where you could reach anyone like that, start reading what they write, start listening to their audios, right? And then do the work, do what the audios tell you to do. And then what'll happen is you'll start growing and then you'll get in those realms where you're winning the trips. Now it's like, oh, there's Bill Orender right there. There's Bill Whittle, right? Oh my God, Hector is right there, And I remember it was like gods walking around, on earth, And then you work up a little bit more and you win the equivalent to what those jackets are now, whatever that is, the jersey, whatever, the rings, all that. And you start going to, look, it's a process. It isn't like, okay, I'm ready to get rich, so Bill Orender, hang out with me. No, you got to go to work for a little while. You got to do some legwork, some groundwork, So I think your hierarchy is very blessed that they've got you and that you're pretty available to them. I think our hierarchy is very blessed that they've got me, that I'm very available to them, but everybody's not that lucky. But you go read about those guys and learn about them and do the work and you'll get to know them. The great thing about Primerica is we all were where you were at. Right. Pretty much all of us that joined the business were broke when we joined and we're wealthy. So we relate to you, even though you think, oh, we don't relate to you. We don't understand. We understand everything. We understand more than you know. What you don't understand, what most of you don't understand is you've got to do the work and then you'll grow the relationship. And then the sky is the limit. It's just nobody wants to do the work, Bill. Isn't it crazy? They don't want to do the work.
Well, there's this quote that says, you need to take personal responsibility for your finances and seek financial independence, not financial dependence. So talk about that. And I believe strongly, no, I made money when I was a kid. I had paper outs and all the stuff that you do because I did not like being under my parents' thumb. I hated it. I wanted control of my money. I wanted control of my income. And that's the only thing I could control. And I'll comment on that, and then comment on the quote I have from you about your Uncle Mo that everyone's heard about. You said, I want to be Uncle Mo in someone's life.
Well, I mean, Uncle Mo, maybe one day we'll get Uncle Mo on this call, right? So
Wow.
he was just, he's just a very kind, hardworking, disciplined person. He's really had some rough times. He had one child and his child passed away. And even after that, I mean, even when I was there and he was giving his child's eulogy, which I could never even imagine having to give your own child's eulogy. And he went up there with such grace and style. And there's a lot of areas there where I have to work on, where I'm like Uncle Mo, because he's got a lot of grace and style. Okay. But he was the guy. He was the guy that I looked at growing up. I said, there's a possibility that I could do what he's done. You know, he was the example. He was the role model. You know, I have an RVP, Mark Young, who is ready to cross $500,000 in income. And like, I don't know, 10 years ago, he was ready to claim bankruptcy. He was ready to claim bankruptcy because he had not listened to me. He made some dumb decisions and was ready to claim bankruptcy. So his net worth was negative $800,000 or something crazy like that. And he came to me and I told him, I said, listen, if you listen to what I tell you, I could get you out of this, but you got to do exactly what I tell you to do with no questioning. Just do what I tell you to do, because you've already proven that you don't listen to me, it doesn't work, right? Well, here it is. 10 years later, his income is this month he's crossing $500,000. He's got $1.5 million in cash, money invested. He has no debt. I mean, he has a little small mortgage, not a lot. That's it. No other debt. And he never had to claim bankruptcy. He worked out of it, right? So he needed to take personal responsibility for where he was at. He was grown up enough to come to me and lay it all out. I know there's people in our own hierarchy that are hurting and they're embarrassed and they won't come to me. Well, if you don't come to me, I can't help you. I can't help you, right? The only way I could help you is if you're grown up enough and you're ready enough to really listen and come to me and lay it all out, right? And so you got to take responsibility, which most people don't, because when they're all screwed up, they got every excuse why they're screwed up, and it's never them. But the reality is it's always them, right? They're the ones that made the choices, right? So Uncle Mo was that example of that person that was making good choices. He grew up poor. His dad passed away when he was a year old. He was raised with his mother, who worked at a beauty salon and worked an Avon, to make extra money. And with all that, he went to an Ivy League college, graduated, worked his way up, was a president at Morgan Stanley, then went to another place named Loomis and Sales, worked his way up there. And he ran Charles Schwab's personal account. I mean, you got to be pretty good at what you do if old Chucky wants you to handle his money, right? And he was the role model. So I want to be that role model to people. I want, when I'm dead one day and there are people that are wealthy and living a dream life, I want them to say, that Omar guy really changed my life. That is meaningful to me. That's why I stay in the business. That's why I'm engaged in the business, is because when you're not, you lose relevance. You lose relevance. You're the guy that, he's retired, right? So you lose that relevance. So as long as I can stay relevant, I'm going to stay relevant, and I'm going to be changing. Like these Zooms, right? I got other crap that I could do right now on this morning, right? I got other stuff that I got to do. But I thought, I'm going to get on the Zoom. I'm going to give it all I got with you. And we're going to change some lives, right? I mean, we ought to have 989 people on this call, and we don't. And that's because the people on this call didn't do a very good job of spreading the word. And why wouldn't they? They're here. They love it. Isn't that crazy? It's like Primerica. Again, I know we don't want to bring it up a lot, but if you're happy you're in Primerica and you're glad for what you've learned and the way we're changing the way you look at life, why wouldn't you want everybody in that? Why aren't you recruiting the world? Why aren't you linking all that recruit with all this money you can make and all this freedom and this quality of life that you can have? I don't know, but we're trying to change that for you, you know?
Tony, if you put up this, that 6 steps Art Williams came up with from Napoleon Hill. And the reason I have this up here is for you to take a picture and understand that this is the steps Art Williams taught us every time to become financially independent. He wanted $300,000 so no one had their thumb on him and tell everyone else to go stick it in your ear. I have followed this plan. All right, we've got, take a picture now, you know, follow it, Rethink and Grow Rich, and we can go back to Omar and maybe one day we'll, if we continue to do this, might go back to this sheet. But Omar, we've got Hector Lamarck next month, the second Tuesday of the month. I think it's the 12th again, no, March 12th. Why should people be on it to listen to Hector? You know, Hector has really not been around the company for a lot of years, but you've grown really close to, okay, Tony, we can take it off now. What can Hector show us and teach us?
Well, I can tell you, even though Hector's not around the Primerica trips, he's very much around Primerica. He mentors people all the time. I'm one of those. Mario Arizon's one of those. And there's a whole list of people. So he is still very much in Primerica. He just not at the trips. You know, I mean, he's used to traveling his way. And then when you're on a Primerica trip, you know, you're flying, you know, whatever airline, you got to take 8 legs, you know, to get there. And he's like, I'm not going to do that anymore, you know, but he's very much in Primerica. He's very much in tune. His wife, Jan, oh, my telephone's ringing. I'm sorry. His wife, Jan, is very much in Primerica. His wife, Jan, knows everybody's numbers in the company. I mean, it is unbelievable. She is a machine, you know? And so Hector's still engaged. He knows Primerica in and out. And the reason you should like tune in is, number one, nobody ever gets to listen to him on a Zoom, really. I mean, he's like a unicorn, right? So, oh, look, there's a unicorn, you know? And so he brings tremendous value. A lot of the stuff that I've learned off of Hector. And I remember Bill asked me, well, do you think you could get Hector on? I'm like, absolutely. So I called him. I told him about it. He was like, oh, that's great. That's a great topic. I'd love to do it. So he is a very giving person. He's misunderstood, I think. I think there's a lot of people that are jealous of him in a way, but he is a true Primerican. He and Jan love Primerica, love the company. They've used it like what you brought up, Bill. They used it as a vehicle to change their life, okay? That was their main deal. They did all the stuff that we talked about today. Like they raised 2 kids and they brainwashed their kids. So their one kid, Dak, runs his own private investment company named Atlas. Okay. So it's like for high net worth people and he's running their money. It's like his company. He owns it. There's no one giving him orders, right? I'm actually his client, right? So, and then his daughter, Janae, has written movies, produced movies, won movie awards, Cannes and, you know, France. And so his kids they're winning in life. They're happily married. They got great kids. He has a great relationship with it. So he's a winner all around. There's not an area in life that I know of where Hector's not winning. So that you get a chance for an hour to listen to Hector, I don't know. I think it's kind of priceless, you know? He flew down here 2 years ago. I asked him to do a builder school. He says, I don't do builder schools anymore, Omar. I haven't for 10 years. And Jan's like, yeah, he doesn't do it. He goes, but I'm going to do yours because I love you. I said, oh my God, that was so special to like have him here and hanging out with our guys at the recognition dinner and just being one of the guys with us. I mean, listen, if you don't know Hector and all you know is the myth of like Hector Lamarck, that's one thing, but maybe this Zoom gives you an hour where you can really know him a little bit more and learn some valuable lessons. So
thank you very much. That'll be the 12th of March, same time, 9 a.m., same Zoom number. Omar, kind of finalize it. And what do you think we've given today? In the last, this is our third one. What are we accomplishing?
I think we're opening their brains to what's possible. I think we're opening their brains to that they need to change some stuff if they want what's possible. I think they've learned some maybe little tricks like writing out those monthly budgets and knocking on people's doors, not technically knocking on doors, but talking to people like that and doing the work and working their way up where they're in the environment around those people. I think they learned a hell of a lot this morning if they were listening and taking notes and all of that stuff, Bill. What about you, Bill? What do you think they've learned over the course of all of our Money Quest Zooms?
Well, the first thing is, I think the power of right thinking in money mindset, money consciousness, and how it has to be developed. And it just don't get it one time. It's like church, Christianity. You just don't get it one Sunday. You've got to stay after it. I've learned daily. And the power that other people have come from where we've all come from. And we are being told, brainwashed, that making money is bad. Having money is bad. You're a bad person. Rich people are bad. See, that is a consciousness that all of us have to get over. And the other thing is, my mind, one of the greatest things I ever got from you was the writing out your goals on the shower door. That is powerful to me. And I treasure it. I treasure that little hint. Wish I'd known that years before. But I think it's wonderful just having two guys over a cup of coffee, having 300 and some people listen in. It's okay to be wealthy. You can have great kids. The kids are better off if you have a powerful money mindset, not worse off. Your world is better off. And like this one woman named Ethel Waters, years ago, she's a famous actress from the 40s. They asked her why Billy Graham is so successful. And she said, God doesn't sponsor flops. God is blessing you, blessing me, but we're honoring him with our effort and the value that we bring to other people. So you are worth the money you're making. You just didn't get lucky. I'm
worth more, Bill. I'm worth more than the money I'm making. I'm going to prove it.
And, look at all the successful people that have come through your hierarchy. $1 million earners, $100,000 earners, death claims paid. You're talking about, just end on this. The woman across the street and what Omar, little old woman. We've got about 3 minutes, so I'll finish up in about 3 minutes, okay?
I got to tell you, there's this lady that lived across the street from us when I was growing up, lived there for 28 years. So the lady's known me all my life. And so the lady's very close with us. And so the minute that I got investment licensed, my mother told her, Omar got investment license. He did. Well, that's awesome. I think I'm going to open up an account with him. So the lady calls me. I don't want to use her name, but the lady calls me and I walk across the street and she says, I'd like to open up an account with you. Well, I get so nervous and scared, Bill. I said, okay, well, listen, right now I was on the way to a meeting. Let me go run over that meeting. We could do this tomorrow, right? Okay. So I went over to the office scared to death. I said, oh my God, this lady wants to open up an account. I don't know what to do. So I did all the research and I chose a good investment option, the right one for her. And I went back there and we opened up a 20 grand investment. And the lady never looked at it because she just knew Omar's handling it. And I trust Omar because I've known Omar all my life. And so now the lady's 88 years old and she's going to live in one of these ALFs where they can help her because she's 88 years old. And they needed 2 grand more a month than the lady makes right now. So the daughter wanted to meet with me to learn about what's in the account because they had no idea. So the daughter doesn't call me, even though the daughter's known me all her life, the daughter's calling the 800 number. So the lady says, who are you calling? She says, the 800 number. She says, I don't call the 800 number. She says, who do you call? I call Omar. Says, you do? So that's Primerica right there, okay? Most people would be calling an 800 number, okay? She calls me, we catch up, and she says, we're going to drive in the office, tomorrow. Okay. She comes in, she rolls her in her wheelchair. I wanted to cry, And we spent like an hour and a half just reminiscing about the old days and the old neighborhood. And she says, Omar, I'm so proud of you and what you've done and what you've accomplished in your life. You've got a beautiful wife. You've got beautiful children. You have a beautiful business. I'm just really, I'm like watery-eyed right now. So then when we look up the account, she's got $250,000 in there. She had no idea. Nobody, the child. So when I told them, well, 2 grand a month, you need extra. I said, this will last you 29 years, 30 years, and you're 88. So if you live, to 128, you'll be okay still, And I told her, and if you live after 128, I got your back if you run out of money, right? And and then my mother rang up the office at that exact time. And so I told her, you'll never guess who's here. And my mother lives close, to the office. So she drove over to the office and we were all hanging out in the office for like an hour and a half, just reminiscing about the old days. And, I just think I just changed her life. They came in totally scared and worried that this new ALF would cost 2 grand more a month. They didn't know where they were going to get the money, but because the lady trusted me way back in the day, Primerica took care of it and I took care of it. And, that's life change. That day was a special day. I think you and I talked that day. I can't remember.
Day after, yeah.
But I was like, it was just special. So how many of those meetings will you have over the next 20 plus years with like people you love where you've changed their life? It's unbelievable.
Well, again, too, we'll end on this. And you made a whopping $300.
Yeah,
But
probably.
we worry about getting rich off of people. Understand, people get rich off of us. Virginia made $20 million off of me, but I made more than that off of me. We got to grow up, take personal responsibility, and fix this brokenness regarding money. Omar, we'll be talking to you soon. Again, we'll be back on March 12th, same time with Hector Lamar. Thank you, Omar. Brilliant.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, everybody.